It's time to strap in and get ready for the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Dan and Dirk are live in the studio today, ready to hear from you at 402-573-0590.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting at Council Bluffs. Online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Get over to Joe's Karting today, just like Jimmy Owens did on Wednesday night. Buddy and everybody at Joe's Karting was posting about how Jimmy Owens was turning a couple of laps at Joe's Karting, and you had the unique opportunity to race with him. There was a couple of drivers that went over. I think Kyle Trout, who's a big fan of the show, went over and actually got to race with Jimmy Owens. I mean, how cool is that?
Well, especially when he abused him.
You take it when it's Jimmy Owens.
Well, when Jimmy Owens just wasn't used to turning right.
Yeah.
They don't have any dirt road courses.
Even the big dirt track boys that come in once a year. Scott Bloomquist has been known to run over there once in a while. Usually runs over there at least a couple of times during the Silver Dollar Nationals. And the last couple of years, he's gone over there on the Sunday after. He just stays down in the stays at I-80 Speedway. No need to rush home and overnight it. And then he'll go over to Joe's Karting and do a little appearance and just kind of hang out for a couple hours. Really cool deal there that Scott Bloomquist does. And you see some of these guys going around, along with the local guys, too. You never know who you're going to run into at Joe's Karting.
Except on slick track night. You're probably going to find some sprint car guys.
You're definitely going to run into some local dirt racers. Well, as you can imagine, we've got a big show lined up for you today. Pardon me, we have the 3-day recap of the Silver Dollar Nationals, the 9th annual Imperial Tile Silver Dollar Nationals featuring the Malvern Bank Go 50 on Thursday night. We're going to get your race recaps from there, as well as audio from third, second, and your race winner for the Lucas Oil late model feature on Saturday night. Last night, I was a little bit lazy. I do apologize. I didn't run to the modified area in the back pits and get interviews with second, third, and the winner of the Malvern Bank race, or the Go 50.
The race the benefit's named after. Rodney Sanders is what we're saying.
He's just too good. I guess I shouldn't say too good, but he's just so good.
And starts on the pole.
He loves that racetrack. He earns it. And he holds on to it. So we'll talk a little bit about that. There's not really much to talk about it. It looked like maybe Rodney wasn't going to have the car to have, but then all of a sudden he did. And he goes and walks away.
All of a sudden they threw the green flag, and what do you know?
Yeah. By the way, you can watch the video live. We're on Facebook Live on our Fred Stretch Facebook page. You can enjoy my, what do they call it, maroon Silver Dollar Nationals 2018 t-shirt. My 2019 shirt is a little sweaty right now. I wore it.
That a little funky.
Yeah, it's got a little funk to it. But so again, we'll hear back from third place and second place and review some of the racing action in turn number 1. We'll come back at turn number 2. We'll do an interview with Bobby Peirce, who was the winner from last night. And then come back at turn number 3, and we will listen to an interview we did with Joey Gase a few weeks back to get you set for this coming Friday and Saturday's racing action at Iowa Speedway. And then we will come back to wrap up the show in turn number 4 with a preview from New Hampshire. If you want to watch us do the entire show, it is on Facebook Live. Just like the Front Stretch Facebook page and start watching the Facebook Live video, where you're always welcome to comment and give us your opinion on the racing action. Whether it be the Silver Dollar Nationals last night at the Iowa Corn 300, maybe it's over at Eldora at the Kings Royal, who knows, whatever you want to talk about, we will do our best to throw some opinions around and have that conversation. I do have one opinion piece I kind of wanted to talk about, and maybe I'm going to be opening up a can of worms. Maybe this isn't anything, I don't know, but I had the unique experience of watching from behind the scenes as the best no good deed goes unpunished, as I have deemed the water bottle fiasco at I-80 Speedway on Friday night. So I kind of want to get people's opinion on that and have a little conversation. But first things first, let's talk about the race weekend at I-80 Speedway. It kicked off Thursday night with the Malvern Bank Go 25 Invitational Only Modified Feature, and then the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Race, and then we came back and did the Malvern Bank Go 50. Now, the Go 25 lap modified race, the Go 50-lap Lucas Oil late model race, and then the Malvern Bank race was the largest paying Malvern Bank race of the year. It has been for the last couple of years since they added it to the Thursday night features. Great racing action on Thursday night. The modified race looked like Jesse Sobbing, who has been kind of bouncing back and forth into a car, taking a couple of weeks off, just having a good time. He led for several laps, looked like he was going to win that race, but Jake O'Neill tracked him down on the final lap and was able to steal it away. And Jake O'Neill, great run during the Malvern Bank Go 25, struggled the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, it looked like Jesse, they just had that last restart there with a couple laps to go, and it looks like Jesse's tires just didn't come back underneath him, and he just got literally driven by coming out of turn 2.
Sobbing ends up finishing second, Jordan Grabowski third, Terry Phillips fourth, and Hunter Marriott fifth. Who's who of racing. I loved watching this race because outside of your top 5, you had Josh Mose, Jacob Hobscheit, Mark Lighting, Ryan Jenkins, Dylan Smith, Jared Heffelman, Red Munson, Brandon Spanger, Justin Gregg, Jesse Dennis, Sean Harker, who was racing Johnny Sadoff's car. Just an amazing starting lineup for a modified race, and a heck of a race at that.
And Hunter Marriott did a heck of a job because he came out of one of the consies to get into the top 5, so it was fun watching him carve through traffic.
Uncharacteristic of him to not qualify for that feature right off the bat, but it was a tough field of cars to battle with. Your Malvern Bank Super Late Model race, Kyle Burke took the lead, and I thought, well, that's it. Okay, Kyle's got the lead, but Tyler Bruning just never let him get away, and Tyler just kept working, trying that high side, just trying to get that high side to work, and a little bit of a combination between the high side finally coming in and lap traffic allowed Tyler to get by.
Yeah, again, another good race. I think they had a heck of a time getting it started. They had a couple yellows, in the first two laps, I think. And I think they went the final like 32 or 33 laps, all green. So you got to see a lot of guys running hard. And like I said, Kyle Burke started on the front row. And looked like Kyle Busch because he went out there and pretty much dominated everything. And I think he lost the lead with about 7 or 8 to go, somewhere around there.
You're probably right. It felt like it was more than that. It felt like there might have been – I felt like there was more like 12, but those are big, long, fast laps.
Well, and it was just – it was nonstop for, like I said, 32, 33 laps. So – where exactly it happened. I mean, they raced real tight, and once they got into traffic kind of took its toll. And
once Tyler was able to get by, he was gone. And there's a little bit of more of a other shoe dropped, as we found out the next morning on Friday morning of I think why. Kyle never confirmed if this was the reason why, but Kyle had a tough time that last lap when Tyler got by. Kyle kept really pushing that car to try to regain the lead and get back out into that clean air, and he jumped the cushion a couple of times, tapped the wall, and after that maybe he kind of settled in and just thought, you know what, I got second place, he's got a fast car. But Kyle ended up announcing on Friday morning that he was going to be ending his Silver Dollar Nationals weekend early due to the shingles virus flaring up terribly. And he said it was just too painful to be in the car with the heat and the belts rubbing. It was just too painful. And I had a brief conversation with him after the feature on Saturday night for the Lucas Oil Late Models. We were standing there watching Bobby Peirce's car get torn down and in tech inspection. And Kyle said it was the most painful thing he's ever gone through. And I don't doubt it. My mom has it. Millions of Americans have it. It's a terrible virus to have. And I feel for him. So he said it was incredibly difficult to sit out on Friday night and Saturday night, knowing that he had the capability, just his health wouldn't allow him.
Right. I mean, he's almost, an automatic to make the feature on Saturday night. I don't think he's had a whole lot of luck in that feature, but he's been in, I think, most of them. So, he would have been out there turning laps. The shingles virus is terrible. I mean, I've never had it, but I do know many people that have, and I guess the pain is because there's nothing they can do for it.
Right.
They can't give you, some oxycodone and you're comfortable again. There's just nothing they can treat it with. You just got to sit there and suffer, and I can't even imagine, especially if it was over his shoulders or anything where his belts were sitting.
Yeah.
Oh.
He said it was left leg from about his ankle up to his hip and then kind of came around to the front of his stomach. So it's a big area that he's in. He's got a flare up on. But anyways, so good run for Kyle and a heck of a race in the Malvern Bank Series. Tad Pospischal comes home third. Josh Leonard fourth after starting 15th. Ben Schaller with the top 5. Jason O'Brien, Corey Zeitner, Josh Krug, Nick Deal, and Scott Ward round out your top 10. That was your Malvern Bank Super Late Model race. Your Lucas Oil Late Model Go 50. Jonathan Davenport left off right where he picked up right where he left off in 2018. Took him a little longer to get to the front. He started 9th, but he ends up taking the lead away, and it was kind of done after that. But great racing action. Devin Moran, who started 19th, ended up finishing 3rd. Chase Younghands started 13th, finished 6th. Brandon Shepard 8th, finished 2nd. I mean, there was a lot of racing action. And I saw somebody comment on Facebook on the I-80 page that there just wasn't a lot of passing, and they were a little disappointed with the action for the price of the ticket. And I'm just not quite sure what they were talking about.
Just as we've discussed a million times, and how I kind of pointed out to you when we started working together, all the racing isn't for first place. You know, if you didn't think the price of the ticket was worth watching Devin Moran come up 16 spots, then you should have watched him.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know how people don't understand that. I figured it out the first 2 or 3 weeks I was in dirt racing. When you're calling a race and the leaders checked out by a second and a half, you don't just keep calling what the leader's doing going into turn 1 all by themselves. You look farther back in the field and you find the first action on the track. And any dirt track fan knows that. It baffled me but it goes to show you what social media does today. This person went on, blasted the racetrack for the overpriced tickets. They were frustrated with the heat. They thought the drivers weren't talented enough. And there was... Devin Moran came up 16 spots in a 50-lap feature that didn't have a lot of cautions on Thursday night. And you just had some great racing action, but, maybe they didn't stay for the Lucas Oil feature, but they were still disappointed with it. I mean, facts, who cares? I'm upset, and I'm going to make up whatever truth I want.
Well, I'm just glad that we can go ahead and blame the track for the heat.
Well, of course.
If we can do that, then I'm all in.
I mean, if you're any kind of fan of the Silver Dollar Nationals, there's one thing you can guarantee: it's gonna be hot. And it was probably one of the hottest years this year on Thursday and Friday. We got a real reprieve last night on Saturday night. But anyways, a little bit off my soapbox there for your racing action on Thursday night. Great racing action. And then Friday we come back with our qualifying races. Not really a lot to be said there. It was all double heat races for both the USMTS and the Lucas Oil guys, and they put on one heck of a show again. Just 10, 12 lap heat races. Got your positions, and then you would come back and do it again. I think your starting position was set by your passing points, and there was still a great night of racing action. I give the fans a lot of credit. I mean, they sat out in that heat. Luckily, there was a little bit of a breeze on Friday night, but I remember at 6 p.m., I looked at my weather app, and the heat index was right at about 116, and that was the hottest of the day. While the actual temperature had started to fall, the feel-like temperature was sitting at 116, which just blew me away that there was that many fans sitting out there braving that much heat.
Well, Thursday night, I looked at 10 o'clock because the races were moving slow on Thursday for whatever reason. Didn't seem like there were that many cautions, but the races were moving slow. They didn't take an intermission. But at 10 o'clock, the heat index was still like 106 on Thursday night.
Yeah.
And I didn't go Friday trying to avoid the heat with my kidney issue, but I went last night, and I think I still overdid it from Thursday because I still don't feel back to normal.
We're going to have to speed it up a little bit. We're running long on turn 1 and in our conversations, so we'll have to drop a little bit of this off. Moving over to Saturday night's feature action, the last chance qualifiers, I believe it's the S&S dual race, where basically if you finish top 3, you get the option to take the money and go home, or you could turn the money back in and you could tag the back of the field. Terry Phillips, who finished second who won that race, ended up taking the starting position
transfer spot
and moving in. and that was the late model race for that race. So
and Billy Moyer took the money and ran,
right,
and Jake Tim took the transfer.
Correct. So again, I'm not explaining it right. When you finish top 3, you get, I think it's 3,000, 2,500 and 2,000 is the payouts for first, second, and third.
It might even be 3,500 to win.
And it's the feature for the Lucas Oil late models pays 2,000 to start, and you basically have to get up for winning that race. I think you have to get up to 12th to have the better than $3,000 payout. For third place, which was Billy Moyer, he'd have to get up to 15th, and he said, "You know what? I burned enough tires off. We got way too much work to do on this car to make it worth something, so we're going to take the 2,000 and just go home."
Well, and 3 years ago when T-Mac won the 80 lapper, Brandon Shepard won that race and took the transfer and made it to second.
And took home a $20,000 payday.
Right.
So that worked out for him really well. Your top 10 finishers for the Lucas Oil late models. Actually, we'll go back and talk about the modifieds. Rodney Sanders won. Okay, let's go down to the Imperial
Rodney Sanders benefit.
Man, 9 out of the last 11 races at I-80 Speedway for the USMTS features have been won by Rodney Sanders. The guy's just automatic at I-80.
And then he started on the pole last night, so
that's
insult
what I said.
to injury.
I said that to Chris Stapin when he was getting ready to do the starting lineup. I'm like, it's just not fair.
Why don't they let Rodney just park his car, give him his check, and let everybody else race for second? At least they'll think they're winning.
Lucas Oil late model top 10 finishers after starting 24th. Dennis Erb comes home in 10th spot. Devin Moran, who had a great Thursday night, started 3rd, fell back, finished 9th. Mike Marlar, who started 17th, finished 8th. Tim McCready, who battled for the lead for quite a while and had a little bit of a dust-up with Bobby Peirce. By the way, the guy that Bobby Peirce won't name but talks about in his interviews that we'll play in turn number 2, his name's Tim McCready. I thought that Tim and Bobby raced a little bit hard for the lead early in the race, a little bit too hard for how early it was, but I'm not the guy who's racing these things, so my opinion's one thing, and what they do is reality. Tim started outside pole, finished 7th. Jonathan Davenport looked like he was going to have a strong car for the night, but early in that race, got a little bit high coming out of turn 4, hit the outside retaining wall, and ripped a portion of the nose wing off that comes up over the front tire. So you had that front right tire that was exposed. I thought it was going to cause more of an issue for him, but I think the number of cautions, the frequency of the cautions, and the fact that it didn't have long green flag runs really helped him out. He started 12th, got up to take, I think, as far as 2nd before he started to fall back after that issue. Ended up finishing 6th. Dale McDowell started 23rd, ended up finishing 5th. Scott Bloomquist 9th, bounced around most of the night. Ended up finishing 4th after up being as high as 2nd place. Brandon Shepard, who finished 3rd, started 8th, and then let's hear from Brandon Shepard on that great 2nd place finish. He was one you were just talking about. Ended up turning back in the money and deciding I'm gonna go for the big payday. Got up to 2nd, not able to get that win away when Tim McCready ended up cashing the $53,000. But Shepard had a really strong car. He was able to finish 3rd, and his car really seemed to come in late.
Yeah, we kept getting better and better the longer the race went on there, and it was a fun race. Bobby did a good job there, and like I said, we just kept getting better and better. Wasn't quite as good there early as we needed to be, but like I said, we just kept getting better, and we'll take some good notes and come back next year and try it again.
Next year's race, because it's going to be a 101 lap feature. You think if it had been 101 laps tonight, you could have got her done?
I don't know. Maybe we needed a caution or something to be able to, gather everything back up and catch back up and everything. And like I said, we started getting better there towards the end and got by Scott there for 3rd. And, it was just a fun race. And this place always produces pretty good racing. So it was fun. We'll try it again next time.
You've seemed to enjoy I-80 Speedway for the last couple of years, and it seems to me like you've had a late car as this race has gone on and the track has started to take character.
Yeah, usually when we come here we're starting in the back, and this year we had a fairly decent starting spot. But we were right there for a while, and then we got shuffled on a couple restarts, and just one thing led to another. Next thing I knew, we were 10th, and then we had to get back up on the wheel, and a few more restarts helped me, and Them guys were running the bottom there quite a bit, and we were able to get up on top and just let her rip and get back up to third. And, you know, we had a fairly balanced race car. We just needed to be a little bit better up on top there early in the race. And but like I said, we'll try again next year.
Strong contender for the race win was Chris Madden, who is racing the 0M Sweet Bloomquist car, partnered with Scott Bloomquist to run his second car for the remainder of the year. This was the first time they had been out on the racing action together. Chris, and the first time that Chris had been at I-80 Speedway, started 14th, made his way through the field quickly, started really battling for that top position, had the lead a couple of times during those restarts, but oh boy, Bobby Peirce just had it hooked up on the high side like you wouldn't believe. Chris Madden, with his interview in on the front stretch, said he stayed up front and battled for the win several times. Great run for him for his first time at I-80 Speedway.
Yeah, I mean, we had a great race car. We were prepared to run the middle of the racetrack to the bottom, and obviously, you know, little Bobby there, he's a top running, dominant race car if it's on the top, and he was. I wish we would have got a caution with about 10 to go. We could roll for about 10 and 15 laps, and we could have held him off and got us a win there. But you know, just thanks to Scott and Cody and with this team, you know, put this deal back together and had enough of faith in me to give me the opportunity to drive for them guys, and I just want to thank them for that, and looking forward to the rest of the season.
Seemed like a nice wide racetrack that I-80 Speedway gave you guys tonight.
Awesome racetrack. Couldn't have had anything any better, you know, perfect place to race, and just an awesome place.
Anything you could have done different, do you think, other than maybe prayed for a caution a little bit harder?
Nah, I wasn't going to run that top. Didn't have no intention to, and I done the best I could do, and you know, middle of the racetrack down, we had a car to win the race.
Well, first time at I-80 Speedway, going home with $20,000. Maybe we can make it one better next year.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks.
Really strong run for him, and he was absolutely right. That was a gorgeous racing surface. Thursday night, Friday night, and again on Saturday night. You know, sometimes tracks just miss the prep, but once again, Steve and everybody that helps that track prep really nailed it on Saturday night. Gave these guys a nice wide racing surface, incredibly grippy surface too. It was fast lap times.
Well, especially with all the heat for the 3 days. That makes it super tough, but they did an excellent job. We're
going to take a break. We'll come back. We will talk about Bobby Peirce's run through the field, and we'll hear from the smooth operator himself. We're going to take a break. We'll be back on the front stretch.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole of the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Located on Mid-America Drive in Council Bluffs.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting. Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around their professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Dan and Dirk are rolling into turn 2 with a little attitude on the front stretch.
I don't know if I have any more energy for attitude today. It's been a long couple of days, but...
Is stupid toot a word?
What an amazing race last night. Once again, can't thank everybody enough for all of the interaction and just having a great 3 days of racing. You know, it's kind of cool to watch what everybody at I-80 Speedway is doing, and I don't, by the way, include myself in that. The little I help out with the Silver Dollar Nationals as being a part of I-80 Speedway doesn't count towards what I credit Lisa and Joe and Steve and Bob and Grace and those guys that are planning the big deals and making everything happen. I can't say a great job enough to them because they keep building the event to being a little bit bigger each year. And I know the plans they have for next year, which they announced some of them on last night. We tried to film it, but the cell phone signal was pretty bad in that area. But the plans they have for next year for the 10th annual Silver Dollar Nationals, not only paying more throughout the purse and locking in the ticket prices so that you're not going to pay extra for the increased purse. You're not going to pay extra for the general admission or the reserve seat tickets. Locking in that ticket price, paying more in the purse, but they're also going to be adding more things that's going to be going on. So if you happen to camp out there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, it's not going to be a get up at 10 or 11 after the night before and kind of sit around until 5 or 6 when things pick up again. There's going to be a lot going on, including the cornhole tournament will be coming out, and they're working with Speedway Motors to do a tour. So really cool stuff going on, and great job to them. Talking about Bobby Peirce, obviously a lot's been talked about. We've had him on the show several times. Dirk talking about his run last year. Strong car, should have won that race. Just not a strong enough engine.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been 2 in a row for him, plain and simple. And the guy's got talent. And like you said, if the high side's there for him, just look out. I don't care what track you're on. He likes that, inch from the wall deal and does not like to go to the bottom. And again, we see the same thing when he runs Knoxville.
I was really surprised at the fervor at which he wanted to win that race again, to come back and redeem himself from last year. When we talk to him, and this happens to any dirt racer, when they lose a race like Bobby had last year at the Silver Dollar Nationals, the strong car you had that race locked up. Bobby had that race locked up. No question about it. When you blow a tire or you get caught up in lap traffic or you blow an engine, it's a bitter pill to swallow, and it's happened to millions of dirt drivers and racers throughout history. But Bobby seemed to carry this a little bit more. He said that he went back and watched that race on Dirt so many times, and this was the race he wanted to win the most in 2019. And he gets out and starts running that high side early in the race, and I'm not talking like just after the halfway point. I'm talking the first 10 laps. He starts mixing it up with Tim McCready to the point where they're trading slide jobs, which is amazing for the fans to see. And I was really surprised because it's a general rule of thumb with the late model guys and all of the drivers that race out at I-80 Speedway on a weekly basis, that when you're running the low side and you're sliding up the track, you leave a lane on the outside for the driver that's running the high side. I-80 will strictly enforce that because that creates great racing action. And it also protects against guys junking cars. And several times, I'm not saying anything bad about Tim McCready. He didn't leave a lane, and I don't really necessarily blame him for that because you're racing for $53,000 to win, and who knows if this time you slid up and blocked him is the reason why you end up winning that race in 45, 48 laps to come, or 70, 80 laps to come, whatever it be. So Tim McCready slid up several times and blocked Bobby Peirce, and Bobby finally paid him back and ended up ripping a piece of the left side of the nose wing up. And so it was kind of folded up a little bit, and I think it was slowing his entry down and hurting his aerodynamics.
Well, it hurt his
just
aero,
a little
I'm
bit.
Sure.
And there was some harsh words Bobby had after the race. I'm sure Tim McCready wasn't very happy with him. I felt like it was too early because, again, this all happened between Tim McCready and Bobby Peirce, started to happen within the first 10 laps of an 80-lap feature. And, I mean, how many sayings are out there? You don't win a race on lap 2, on lap 10, but you sure as heck lose them.
Well, and, if you tear up your equipment, you don't finish the race. You got to be there at the end to at least have a chance to win.
Yeah.
But those guys, and you used to see it like with the Busch All-Star Tour and the WDRL, you've got some racers that will back off and save their equipment, and others that won't. Mm-hmm. They don't worry about it. If they get in a tangle and tear something up, well, that's just part of racing. So they've got their own rules as opposed to what the weekly track's going to run. So that's why nothing was done about it. The weekly track wasn't going to step in and say, "Oh, you can't do that here at I-80."
Yeah. But Bobby said several times, he was racing against other guys like Chris Madden and Brandon Shepard and even with Scott Bloomquist and Jonathan Davenport. They would leave him a lane. They would race him clean. And I was just really surprised. Again, I don't say anything bad about Tim McCreadie. I'm not dogging on him at all because I love that kind of racing. I love that aggressive racing. Some of my favorite drivers right now on the local level is Bob Zobek. My favorite thing I've thought about it, Bob Zobek drives that modified like somebody just kicked his dog. He is the most aggressive driver I've ever seen, or I've seen in the last month and a half racing, and I love that style. I loved watching Tim McCreadie race last night, but I was perfectly understanding why Bobby Peirce was upset with him after the race. It was early in the race to be doing that, but it led for great racing action, and I think everybody that walked out of that grandstands on Saturday night said that was the best Silver Dollar Nationals yet. But anyways, so kind of coming off that, the battles continue. Jonathan Davenport battling for the lead. Brandon Shepard, again, he got up there and was battling a little bit. Chris Madden, the battle between him and Bobby Peirce. Peirce had a really good car once his momentum was able to get up and going again. There'd be a caution about every 8, 10, 12 laps for the first 40 or 50 laps, and that would really set Bobby back. He'd have the lead, and then the start would come, and he just wouldn't be able to get his exit right off the corner. And so then he would fall back to second or third or fourth, go to work 5 or 6 laps later. He'd be running that high side half a second, 6/10, 7/10 faster than the leader. Eventually he'd blow right by him, and then they'd keep going. But that battle for about 3 or 4 laps between second place working the low side to the middle groove and Bobby running that high side was just a beautiful thing to watch. And again, if you want to go back and watch it, dirtondirt.com has every lap, and James Essex has the call. You won't be, that's worth an annual subscription alone just watching that race last night. Then it came down to Bobby had it pretty much locked up. And Chris Madden was so far behind in second, and Shepard was so far behind in third. And I kept waiting for something to happen. You know, what happened last year with the engine with 5 to go with Bobby, you were on pins and needles. And this year, it seemed like Bobby was just trying so hard to make the exit of turn 2 about 3 feet wider. Man, he would come off that corner and not just scrape the wall. He'd jump the cushion and pop that tire into the wall, into the concrete. He'd have it sideways. One time he had to completely come out of the throttle so that he would kick the car back around and go. And, I mean, you could see it by every single corner. He wanted that race more than anything in the world.
Well, hopefully if he was getting up on 2, hopefully he wasn't hitting the tire into the wall too much, because that means he would have really caved in that quarter panel if he was getting the tire.
You'll hear it. Well, the quarter panel was already caved in from the McCreadie contact. But he talks about it in his interview. We'll hear it here as we play this one. But Bobby Peirce right now, a lot was made of his dominant win, his dominant race last year, but the engine letting go with 5 to go. Finally able to redeem himself. And he was just elated. He had to feel great about that win.
Yeah, like I've been saying, anytime I watch a lot of Dirt on Dirt videos, and I hate to watch this race, but I like to watch it because I was like, well, I was so fast, and I want to see it for that. But then I don't want to watch those last 10 laps because, I knew it was in the bag. And like last year, the Dirt Million got away from me and Knoxville got away from me, but it wasn't in the same situation. I got past at them races fair and square. And last year, with me braking, it was just like, I got robbed of it, I felt like. So this year was a lot of redemption, and that's kind of what made me a little bit more upset when I got shuffled back because, I was like, I got to win this race. And there was a lot of guys out there racing me super clean, and then some drivers really swinging out, and I'd give a guy some room, and he'd still get you. But that's over. I'm just really glad to win this show. It's one of the biggest races, if not the biggest race I've ever won. And it was definitely the most mentally challenging race I've ever won because with how the cushion was so treacherous and just everything else going on in the race, it was so mentally challenging. And there was never really a time except for those last 10 laps where I really kind of stretched out a lead because every time I did, a caution would come out and I'd get passed. So I had to work hard all 80 laps, and got to give a big shout out to the crew for keeping all the bolts tight on this thing and the tires on the thing, no flat tires, no nothing like that. And I actually got the wall with 12 laps to go in turn 3 with the right rear tire. So shout out to Valco Wheels because I know I hit that wheel on the wall and nothing happened to it. So just a big thanks to Kosiski for putting this deal on. With him definitely, raising the purse next year, that's really cool. Hopefully to get a lot more guys out here.
It seemed like from the drop of the green flag in the first 10 laps, I've always felt like this was kind of a race where you wanted to take your time at the beginning, feel out your car, not push it too hard, but, boy, you pushed every 80 laps.
Yeah, there was, like, only a couple laps where I didn't really push too hard, and that was probably the first couple laps because after that I was like, if I didn't, I'd get shuffled back, and I'd go to block a slider that wasn't there sometimes, I felt like, because we don't know what's going on. We don't got mirrors or radios, so if you kind of hear a guy there that might be coming to pass you and you come down to block a slider, but then that messes up your exit, so the couple times I'd get shuffled back for just making a little bit of mistakes here and there, and then all them restarts just made me have to get up on the wheel all the laps. So, I kind of felt like the tires, I haven't even got to look at them yet. It looks actually okay, but I felt like the right rear was starting to blister a little bit. I could feel the vibration just very slightly, so I don't know how much longer I could have been fast around the top, but I probably figured the bottom was slowing down a little bit too, because with the one thing we do have is signal sticks. So my dad was giving me a signal, and when I mess up, they get a little closer, and then I'd go hard again, and I'd stretch it out a little bit, and just when I got the wall there, like I said, though, it made me pretty nervous, and luckily it all stayed together.
Were you surprised how aggressive drivers were driving you early in this race?
Not really. I mean, I guess you had JD in there early. We were going at it hard, and me and Ziegler were going at it, but the difference is we all gave each other all sorts of room, and some guys want to take up the whole racetrack. So it was fun racing with them, not so fun racing with other guys. So I was kind of a little surprised with some other people, but luckily, I was able to get around them and start working on the two Bloomer cars that were then 1 and 2. They were really fast right through the middle, and the fortunate thing is I know, like Babs, he drove the Bloomer car, and he says it's hard to run the top with them. So I knew those guys probably wouldn't get up there too much if they did. So I was like, I think I'll be all right. I just got to hit my marks and get back to them.
You had a lot of fans obviously pulling for you for redemption for last year, and you made people nervous just about every lap off turn 2 and off turn 4 because, man, despite how far your dad was holding those sticks apart, you weren't slowing down.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was really worn out because like I said, it wasn't all the physical stuff, but the mental stuff, like you got to be right on the edge, but still going fast and straight. Because if you're sideways around the cushion, you're really not that fast. So it's a super fine line, and it seemed like it got worse and worse and worse, like it turned into a curb. And the only way to really hit it right was to mash the gas and just shoot right around there. But then that's, if you jump the cushion, you're probably going to be in the wall. So it was pretty tricky. But like I said, I was really worn out, and as the race goes on too, you lose fuel in the back, and the front end comes down, which makes the car more darty too. So it got more challenging as the laps went on.
You've written the next line in the Silver Dollar Nationals history book. It was started off the year it got away from him, and now it's been the year you got it back. That's got to help you sleep good tonight.
Yeah, it does. There was a few things I wish that would have went differently. I don't like to have all the drama, but it was some time coming with that one. I lost a 50,000 win race when I wasn't too aggressive. I actually didn't do anything. Kind of just let the guy have it. And tonight I decided to be a little bit more aggressive. Like I said in the last interview, I could have been a lot more aggressive, and luckily I didn't have to be. But it's a good win. It all definitely helps out, and just the prestige of this race is awesome. So that trophy is really cool too, and I'll have a good spot for that. And it'll be one of them races too that I always go back on Dirt and watch, and just probably smile about, and knew we gave it all we had, and luckily came out on top.
Are you ever going to watch the 2018 Silver Dollar Nationals again?
I probably will. It'd probably be nice to watch that one and then watch this one, because then it even feels better. Yeah.
Watch this as the sequel, because then it'll be the good sequel.
Yeah. Maybe we'll even have another one sometime. Running that cushion's hard, and when I get like Billy Moore's age, I don't know if I'll be able to do it like that, because I'm 22. I should be in probably the best shape of my life, and like I said, I was getting worn out pretty good. So, but luckily we got her done.
Well, it was definitely a weekend to be exhausted.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and I had some fun last night too, so that might be a little bit more while I'm dehydrated. So, yeah.
All right, now figure out how to duplicate the formula for next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe I got to work out a little bit.
Let's not get crazy.
Right.
Nobody needs to talk like that.
I had fun last night. Maybe that caused part of the dehydration. Yeah. Gee, what were you doing?
Let's not speculate. I'm sure he was reading his Bible. I'm sure that's what was going on.
Yeah. His Bible must be on the side of a Bud Light can or something.
Well, it is for a lot of people. That's a good idea for a beer. Anyways, all right, so we're getting sidetracked again. Great job, Bobby Peirce. Once again, Bobby Peirce brings home the win last night. Chris Madden, Brandon Shepard, Scott Bloomquist, Dale McDowell, top 5. Jonathan Davenport, Tim McCready, Mike Mulliner, Devin Moran, and Dennis Erb, your top 10. Local guys that raced, Josh Leonard had to pull off early, finished 30th. Ben Schaller, another good run for him in the super late model for the Silver Dollar Nationals. Started 29th, finished 21st. Corey Zeitner finished 18th. And I think Corey Zeitner is going to be the highest finishing Nebraska driver or local driver. Yeah, finished 18th. So Corey Zeitner, highest finishing driver. Bill Layton Jr., heck of a run for that guy. Got involved in an accident early, had damage to his nose, not able to really have the run he was looking for. Qualified on the first night, on Friday night, qualified throughout that. Didn't have to go through a last chance, an LCQ race or anything like that. Started 10th in a Lucas Oil late model race. I mean, that's something to hang your hat on. And he's doing really good in that 24 car this year.
Well, he had a real rough Thursday night in the SLMR race. He was, I don't know if he just totally missed a setup, if he had a parts breakage, something bent that he didn't notice in the car, but he was really struggling. So to see him rebound, and obviously a different engine combination and everything on Friday night, and I'm guessing for him probably a totally different car.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, he turned his weekend around pretty quick.
Amazing 3 days of racing. Now we can all rest on a rainy Saturday, which, by the way, last look at the forecast is
Sunday.
Oh, God, it is Sunday. I just want to go back to sleep. All right, so it's supposed to rain until about 11 a.m. this morning, maybe even into noon, so who knows what that's going to do. But a nice thirst quencher that we've been having over the last it's been a little dry over the last couple of days. But great couple of racing. Thank you so much to everybody that came out and supported local dirt racing and national dirt racing. Just a couple more 363 days until we do it all over again for the 10th annual. Joe Koziski announced adding more money to the purse for the Lucas Oil late model feature, adding more laps. It's going to be a 101 lap feature because, of course, he can't do 100. He's got to do 101 laps. And for every 10 laps completed, the leader, whoever the leader is at the end of those 10 laps, will win a $1,000 bonus. Up to $63,000 available for the winner. $53,000 for the payday, $10,000 in possible bonus money, and then he'll fill in the rest of the back purse. The big thing for the fans, and they were really excited about, no ticket price increase for 2020. And by the way, there was already messages to the I-80 Facebook page about purchasing the 2020 Silver Dollar Nationals tickets. They're working on it. I know they're up this morning working on it.
Well, they said they were going to put a bunch of reserve seats in so they could buy those early.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, I had to take a drink of my water there. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back on the in turn number 3 to sit down with Joey Gase to get ready for Iowa Speedway in the Xfinity Series with MBM Motorpsorts. We'll be back on the front stretch.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Ready for another Red Oak Fabrication interview. Do you need any powder coating done? You can get it done at an affordable price. $275 for a bare chassis. Any sandblasting and reworking might be just a little bit more for the man hours. You can get a free quote today at Jordan F at RedOakFabrication.com. Got to say a big thank you to Red Oak Fabrication for supporting the front stretch in all of the interviews we're doing all year long. Joining us on the show now, a man who has probably gone through a couple chassis himself, and maybe even, you ever done powder coating, Joey Gase?
Yeah, that's what we always did on our late models and modified when I grew up racing.
Did you ever get to jump in the booth and do it yourself and learn how it's done, or did you were you too busy behind the scene?
I never got a chance to do that. Kind of dropped it off and picked it up when I was ready.
Yeah, as much as it'd be kind of fun to try that stuff out, I'm sure you had things you needed to be practicing and working on.
Oh yeah,
he was a regular racer. He was cooking frozen pizza in his oven, not bacon painted parts.
Hot Pockets, maybe. Joey, one thing we love about you, obviously, you're one of the Iowa boys that's representing up in the Cup Series, and, man, you're doing it old-fashioned style. You'll pick up any ride that'll put you behind a wheel, and you'll go out there and wheel it. Talk a little bit about your career and how you got up into MBM Motorsports.
Yeah, I've been racing go-karts since I was 18 years old, and started to race full-size cars when I was 14, and I started driving my dad's old modified that he drove, and then when I was 15, started to race late models, and when I was 16, I was the youngest ever to win the track championship out at our local track at I-80 Speedway, and then that kind of propelled me forward into racing down south with some development teams, and then when I turned 18, I started racing the Nationwide Series, and then now Xfinity, and been racing in the Xfinity Series pretty much ever since, and then also been fortunate enough to do, I think I'm over 30 Cup starts so far in my career, and I just raced in Daytona last weekend.
Now, I know over there at Hawkeye Downs, it's used to have some fairly prestigious races, that had some big names come and run up there. But that, I know, started as a dirt track, and it's asphalt now. Is that correct?
Yep, yeah, it started as a dirt track, and it's been asphalt since either the late 80s or early 90s. I know ever since I've been alive it was asphalt, but that's where my dad started, was out on the dirt there at Hawkeye Downs, and then once switched over to asphalt. That's what he did, and then that's being from Iowa, everyone kind of assumes I'm a big dirt racer since it's basically the dirt capital of the world, but I actually always, for the most part, always ever done asphalt, just because I was from Cedar Rapids, where Hawkeye Downs is at, and I was right in my hometown, so that's what we went off and did.
Did you ever stretch out and maybe buzz down to West Liberty or over to Farley or Dubuque or, Allison or any of those places and do a little dirt racing, or just always been on the asphalt?
Always been on the asphalt, other than go-karts, and I've done a few dirt races here the last couple of years on some few specials for my sponsors, but I definitely been to those races or to those racetracks, most of them, but I never had a chance to race on those. Our cars were always asphalt cars, so they won't really work too well on the dirt, that's for sure.
Plans for the rest of the year? I see on your schedule that you have some more Cup Series races scheduled. Is that is that fake news, or are we going to see in a Cup ride a little bit more this year?
I'll definitely be in a Cup ride a decent amount more this year for sure. At least a handful of races. We don't know which tracks for sure. That was just kind of week by week stuff, but I'll definitely be in the Cup Series quite a bit more yet this year, and then the full Xfinity Series yet as well.
I know you're only 26 years old, so you got a lot of career in front of you, but is there aspects within the racing industry that you're interested in exploring other than being a driver?
I kind of, I do whatever it does to get the job done. When I grew up racing locally, just me, my dad, and my uncle. So if we needed something done, we had to do it ourselves. So I'm definitely used to working on my own cars, and still do a little bit in the Xfinity Series, but not as much as I did, especially on my own local stuff. But we try to let that to the professionals a little bit more of that know a whole lot more than I do, but it's definitely something that I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty and get down in there with the guys. And being on a small team, everyone kind of has to do a little bit of everything for sure. But I spotted a few times before, and so I'm definitely not afraid to try it all, that's for sure.
So running a full schedule in the Xfinity Series, you get to do some road courses, obviously some short tracks, some of the dreaded 1.5 miles, and then some of the big tracks, the Daytona, Talladega. What kind of racing is your favorite racing?
Really, I like them all, but I definitely like the short tracks, and the super speedway is the best. The short tracks, that's just the type of racing everyone pretty much, had to grow up doing, but it's something that I feel like I'm pretty good at, and I also really like the super speedways as well. I've been successful on them, luckily, before in my career, and something I feel like I understand. And even if you're on a small team, normally it can be a pretty big equalizer for you, and that's something that's pretty cool. And not all the 1.5 miles are bad. There's definitely some 1.5 miles that I really do like, and that have a lot of character and can be a lot of fun. And some of them almost drive more like a short track than they do a normal 1.5 miles. And I would say Kentucky, where we're going this weekend, with how flat it is in 3 and 4, is definitely kind of one of those tracks.
Yeah, I've been to Kentucky, and I just like the whole layout of that track. I like the way the garages are laid out. The fans in the stands can see what's going on in the garage. See like Charlotte and Texas and Atlanta. I mean, they're all cookie cutters. They're basically the same track, and that's one of the things I think that kind of hurt the sport. Kansas is a little bit different. Chicago's got its own identity. Like you say, Kentucky's got its own identity. So those tracks for the 1.5 miles I think are okay, but those other 3 tracks, I think they need to do something with them, and Charlotte's trying by running the road course there.
Yeah, you're partially correct, I would say, on that. They definitely have changed them up a little bit. They've redone Texas, so now actually Texas is a lot more like Kentucky, but flip-flop to where 1 and 2 is now really flat like Kentucky is in 3 and 4, and then 3 and 4 super banked like Kentucky is in 1 and 2, and then Atlanta, really, they're all kind of shaped the same now, but now they all definitely have their major different characteristics where, Atlanta is really worn out, really rough, and really abrasive on the tires, where you need new tires basically every lap if you can get them. And then, Charlotte, it's getting really rough too. And then when they put the PH1 on there, it's the outside groove really comes in, and I think you've actually seen really good racing there this year with the All-Star race, and then even the 600 and the Xfinity race. I think those were definitely some of our best 1.5 mile races so far this year.
We're talking with Joey Gase, a Cedar Rapids native, making his way up into the, I shouldn't say making his way, been up in the top touring series with the Xfinity series and the Cup series for the last couple of years. Joe, we haven't asked this question for a long time, but I think you'd be a good one to answer it. If you could change anything in racing, what would it be?
It could be something that is good for you as a driver. It could be something good for the drivers in general. It could be good for the promoters in general. It could be good for the fans in general. You got a carte blanche.
I would say just 2 things, the politics that can be involved in it sometimes, just like, really not only racing, but any sport really in general. Then other than that, just, how expensive it is, which it's really hard to make it not being expensive, on the how high tech of things we race and stuff like that. If it wasn't so expensive, it'd be a little bit more of a fair game out there for sure.
We've been talking with Joey Gase, like I said, Cedar Rapids native, racing for Rick Ware Racing and MBM Motorsports in the Cup Series, also racing for MBM Motorsports in the Xfinity Series. They're going to be over at Iowa Speedway in just a few weeks. Joey, can't wait to actually get to meet you in person again. We've talked in passing, but I don't think we've actually sat down and had a informal conversation, so I'm looking forward to seeing you over at Iowa.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting back there and back home as well.
And we want to thank you for helping out. We're going to be bringing over a couple honorary crewmen for you. Our contest has 1 more week, so we don't have them set up yet. But, we chatted a little bit at the first Newton race there at Iowa Speedway a couple weeks ago, and we do appreciate your help with that. And the way Jen said, it sounds like if they're able, she might be putting them to work on your pit crew, so it won't be no honorary title. It'll be crewman you're getting.
Yeah, that's right. We, being a small team, we kind of take any help we can get, so we'll put them to work for sure.
All right, Joey Gase, best of luck throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I just got to thank Eternal Fan, ProMaster, and all our Donate Life partners, and much, much more for making the season possible.
Thank you for covering us on that.
Yeah. You've got Donate Life that helps you out?
Yeah, yep, we donate life. You know, that's something that's really important cars there for organ donation, and we team up with a lot of local chapters, most places we go throughout the country, and this weekend we'll be teaming up with Life Center and the local Donate Life in Kentucky, and then also ProMaster Home Repair, which is a really cool company as well, and a big supporter of Donate Life, which is awesome.
Well, we've got a chapter here in Nebraska that the local racetrack I work at, that's a 4/10 mile dirt track. We support the Donate Life Nebraska chapter, and we just did our event with them a couple of weeks ago and raised a couple $1,000s in 50/50, and hopefully brought a little awareness.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Joey, once again, man, appreciate your time.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Follow Joey. One of the guys that, as I got more and more into this show, I had no idea how many Iowa natives are racing up in the Cup Series, in the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series. I think right now it's 4 or 5.
Yeah, you got Landon Castle, Brett Moffitt.
Mm-hmm.
And Brett's pretty much running strictly trucks right now, but, he jumps in a Cup car every now and then, but has had a full season in Cup. Joey Gase, who's bouncing around over there a lot. And for some reason, I'm thinking there's one more.
There is one more, and I keep thinking Matt DiBenedetto, but it's not.
No, he's not.
And not Michael McDowell.
And, we got Zach Ralston running up in ARCA, and, maybe sometime he's going to get a shot because he's actually he's kind of like a Landon Castle type driver, but running in the ARCA division. He's taking care of his equipment and not tearing stuff up, and that might get him a shot up with the big guys.
Joey Gase, follow him online. Just 26 years old. Follow him on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make sure you take care of him and his sponsors. Local guy up there trying to make his way, and we can't wait. And we're really excited to work with him over at Iowa Speedway here next weekend.
And one other driver in the Xfinity that's from Iowa is Michael Annette.
That's it, Michael Annette. Thank you. Yep, you got that right. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back on the front stretch.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
Quaker Steak and Lube in Council Bluffs isn't just another wing joint. It's a great place for beers, bikes, classic cars, and amazing specials. Get to the Lube each Monday for Kids Night, where Kids Lube cruiser meals are just 99 cents with an adult entree. Each Tuesday, you can pound down all the wings you can handle for just $14.95 during all-you-can-eat wings. Wednesday is Bike Night, and Thursday is Classic Car Cruising. Follow them on Facebook at Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Dan and Dirk are live for one last corner. Give them a call now at 402-573-0590.
Yeah, we went a little bit long as usual. Turn 4 brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. Catch all of today's action from New Hampshire on NBC, and starting at 1:30, I believe all picks need to be in by 2 o'clock today. Dirk, while we have literally about a minute and a half to go, let's say a minute and a half because we'll go longer. Craig's like, no, you got 3 minutes. Anyways, see, now I'm wasting time because I'm making funny jokes.
Not funny jokes.
Good point. A lot of things. It's been a crazy weekend at New Hampshire already, with a lot of guys needing to go to a backup car and Alex Bowman needing to borrow a car from a teammate so that he can even race today.
Well, they just decided to give him Jimmy Johnson's backup car instead of bringing something back up from the shop because, they're close enough. They could have done that.
Yeah.
It's still a day's drive up to there, but, they could have done that if they had to. But, yeah, you'll see it wrapped up like a Bowman mobile. They'll just throw a wrap on it overnight, and that'll be that. But I saw a comment on Facebook where they were talking about this.
I was wondering if you were going to say that. Go ahead.
Where somebody said, so there's going to be 2 number 48s, and then somebody else said that now he'll be even worse than what he was, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He goes, all those Hendricks cars are set up the same, and the guys get in and drive them. Well, that's not quite true. They'll have different springs in it, different shocks in it, possibly a different sway bar, different track bar location, and maybe even a different rear gear, but definitely different springs and shocks.
The equipment is the same quality amongst all the cars, but the way they're set up is done according to the driver's style.
Driver's preference.
You know, because people always say, well, you know, if you put somebody like so-and-so in that number 18 car, they could go and win races too. No, I don't think they could, because that 18 car is set up for the way that Kyle Busch likes to race and can drive that car.
Well, the issue is, since it never happens, but you could take, you know, maybe Chase Elliott could jump in that car, and maybe that setup would be perfect for him.
Yeah.
We don't know, and we're never going to know. But that could very well be the case. Anybody could jump in the 18 and win? No. Some guys could jump in the 18 and win? Yes. But, yeah, the cars, I mean, and we're talking about maybe a shim on the left front shock or the right front shock that's 20 thousandths of an inch thick, you know, as being the only difference in the setup.
Appreciate the comment, Tommy. We had a conversation on Facebook about on our Facebook Live about the water situation. If you guys are following on Facebook Live, Tommy had a great point there. All right, going back to New Hampshire, today's race. Kevin Harvick won this race last year. Kyle Busch came home second. Eric Almirola third. Martin Truex Jr. fourth. Chase Elliott fifth. Ryan Newman, Ryan Blaney, Kurt Busch, Joey Logano, and Jimmy Johnson top 10, even though Jimmy Johnson clearly has crappy equipment. Clint Bowyer came home in 35th, but another one of my great jokes. Brad Keselowski in 32nd. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 30th. Matt DiBenedetto. It's kind of nice to throw Matt DiBenedetto in there as one of the top contenders. Ended up finishing 28th. Daniel Suarez 22nd.
And you got Keselowski on the pole and Kyle Busch on the outside of the front row.
That's going to do it for us today. Get to Quaker Steak and Lube and watch all today's action. Make sure you get your picks in on time. We'll be live again next weekend following the Iowa race at the Xfinity race at Iowa. For Dirk Houston, I'm Dan Taylor. Thanks to Craig for pushing the buttons. This has been The Front Stretch on AM 590.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.